What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the CrabNet Show. On today's episode, we're talking English Premier League. The season starts in just a few days. What are the key points to consider for this season when we're looking at the champions and the top four positions, especially with a condensed season due to the COVID? That's our first segment for today. Our second segment is talking about the future. Who are these young stars that are going to be primed for Ballon d'Or awards in the coming years? We'll take a look at some of them who are definitely guaranteed success in the coming decade. That's our second segment. And to close off, we're bringing back fantasy football. With the season starting, many of you are looking at your fantasy strategies going into game week 1. We'll find out from our resident analysts what you can look out for going into the new fantasy season. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of the CrabNet. So to close out our last segment for the day, boys, as we said, the season is about to start up this coming weekend, and I know all of you are busy refining your fantasy football league teams. You've probably changed it multiple times already. With the COVID news that's coming in on a daily basis. We just heard that Paul Pogba has been contracted the virus, so he's probably out for another 14 days. But talking strategies, Shay, what's your fantasy team looking like going into the first game week?
Oh, first game week's a difficult one with all the missing fixtures at the moment because you want to get in United and City players, and it seems like they're just going to be hanging for the first week. So I've got a bench full of non-starters at the moment, and I've got a few 4s and 4.5s on the pitch.
So that's actually a strategy that you're going with, where you're maintaining the United and City boys even though they're not part of game week 1.
Of course. I'm not going to take -4, -8 in game week 2 just to get them in and struggle to actually find the funds when all the prices have changed and that kind of thing. I'd rather get them in now, keep them there, keep them safe, and try my best to pick 11 players who will start. I don't mind taking the hits in the first game week. So, yeah, that's my starting strategy. Got a few other strategies to employ. I noticed that fantasy allows you to play a 5-2-3 formation. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, that's new. I didn't see that one.
Well,
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, my team, I managed to get 5 defenders on the pitch, and it's letting me save the team. So I don't know if that's actually
5 defenders with 2 midfielders?
Yep.
Wow.
Really?
That's new.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one to look out for if you do want to tinker with your team and maybe spread your funds out a bit in the pack, just to get some.
5-3-2.
No,
5-2-3.
5-2-3. Okay, listeners, you gotta verify this for us. Our own boy Shay is giving us some real inside information here.
I would send you all a screenshot, but I'd be giving you my entire team. So
whilst we're talking, we'll tinker whilst we're talking about this. But good. Looking at your team, are you looking at planning your team for a longer term? I know that's a strategy that many people use, setting up their team for at least the first 5 game weeks. Are you looking at implementing something similar?
Yeah, so I would say drop them. I had the City and United players as well before the fixtures were released, and then it's like heavy stress to now go and tinker because you wanted to have this team for the long term, and then fixtures come, and fixtures are more important than long term. I mean, let's say you drop your De Bruyne, and then you have someone else that's bringing you some points, and I mean, all likelihood you're gonna get like a 10-point haul in the second game week. It could be De Bruyne, could be Sterling, or it could be Fernandes, but at least now you know who's the guy that's still looking on form, and then you buy that one. City with 3, and then you're gonna have your ostriches, your 4s, and your 4.5s everywhere else on the team, just because you wanted to hold on to these players.
That's what my team looks like right now. That's exactly what my team looks like right now.
That's exactly it.
Some players I've never seen play before.
Curry making a very good point there, and I think with many of my conversations with other guys, the prices of some of the good players in the Premier League is really exorbitant. And Kai, we want to pull you into this one. can you afford to put in maybe 2 or 3 players that are greater than 11 million in your team? Because you're going to be sacrificing some decent starters everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, just touching on what Saga said, you got to play the fixtures. You can't have any sentimental attachment to any of these guys being supporters or, I like this player or whatever. It doesn't matter in fantasy. You got to play the fixtures. And for me, it's also about having a position or the funds allocated to a position. So it's easy to make quick moves. You don't want to also put 4 premium midfielders, and then you got 2 ostriches, 3 ostriches in the front there. So it's difficult to make the moves when the fixtures change.
Yeah.
So you need to also have a team that's a bit that's easy, it's agile, to move things around. Yeah. So as much as you just asked the question, is it possible to have 3-4 high profile players? It's possible, but they don't need to be in the same positions. You can have an Arnold or a Salah, Aubameyang and a Werner in the same team, but you can't now have Fernandes, Sterling, De Bruyne, all of them in the midfield.
All midfielders.
Midfielders. It does a disservice to your team and how you want to manage the team. Obviously, if you're playing a free hit, it's a different story. But for longevity of the season, you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, that flexibility is critical. And listeners, just so you don't be lost in this conversation, a typical street talk conversation like we're having right now, you'll hear the reference to ostriches quite often. We've labeled some of those lowly priced players as ostriches, the likes that don't get you points, that struggle to get even a few minutes on the field.
Not the Eagles of the team.
Yeah. So
but you remember where it started? You remember where it started with Falcao?
With Falcao.
Hey, don't forget Aspila. Don't forget Aspila.
Oh, yeah.
If you listen to our last episode, we spoke about Falcao when he came in, and there was high hopes for him. He was priced quite highly in the fantasy, but he failed. So he was the source of the ostrich joke.
Ostrich King.
But Shay,
Ostrich King.
Ostrich King, yeah. Shay, if you had to give the listeners out there one piece of advice going into game week 1, what would it be?
I can give a few tips of advice, and not just for game week 1. My tactics are slightly different. I guess I know you would want to always play the fixtures, and I agree with that. You have to watch the fixtures. You have to know who your team is playing. But I choose to have a core squad of about 4 or 5 players who I don't change despite form. And that'll only be up until the first wild card. So I know there's 2 wild cards. I'll have like 3 phases during the season when my squad will change completely. But those 3 or 4 players won't change. And right now, value for money, the Liverpool defense, if you look at them, to be 7.5, 7.0, and 6.5 with Arnold, Robertson, and Van Dijk, and to be getting close to 200 points, that's phenomenal, because you're going to be playing 11, 12 for Aubameyang and Salah and Sterling and that kind of thing, and they're getting you the same amount of points. So I think to invest in your defense, to look at it from that perspective, is a very good approach. During the season, don't take too many -4s, don't take too many big hits. Time your chips carefully. I'm terrible at timing the chips. I end up with like negligible points.
Playing your bench boost.
Did you play before COVID?
Bench boost. Yeah. I played bench boost the weekend
lockdown.
That COVID got called. Yeah, after lockdown.
And he didn't deactivate it.
I even emailed them. He asked me if they could change something on the DB or something. If they could change that flag, nah, no chance.
So Shay is sounding like an ostrich, but he's giving you some good advice.
I am the ostrich of the chips. I'm the ostrich team when it comes to the chips for sure, because I played my triple captain on a double game week for Liverpool on Mane, and he ended up getting injured in the first few minutes. So I ended up with 1 point that became 3. So yeah, my chips are terrible. But yeah, also stick with the cheap goalkeeper. I don't think goalkeepers get you too much points. And the captain choice is vital. Captain choice is probably the most important thing that you have to choose. Don't just stick with one captain all the time. You have to time it. Look for the informed players and know that he's going to probably rack you up a good couple of points. I mean, De Bruyne was a classic example towards the end of last season.
Yeah, lots of good advice from Shay there. Good. Anything that you want to add to that? I'm sure there's quite a bit.
Yeah, man, there's also quite a bit that I'd like to say. As I said, don't load your team up with unknowns or too many of the big stars. Diversify. I'd say your bench must look like you can interchange most of them into the starting 11 as the fixtures go on. That's how strong your entire team must look. Look at the other teams like Newcastle and Everton. They're bringing in at least three each, good big names. And when you get one or two players new into the team, experienced players, the whole team starts to play better. So even take a gamble on the average players of last season from those teams. Look at the fixtures. Chelsea look good going forward. We just got that one Liverpool game, I think, very soon. Don't go for West Ham. I think they have really tough fixtures going forward. And I'm being serious about the Newcastle players. Go deep into it, and you'll find a few good names.
Hey, Matt Ritchie's on penalties. Don't forget that.
Oh yeah, the main thing: look for penalty takers. VAR is around.
Yep, we saw a lot of big scoring penalty takers in last season with VAR. Some good ones there for you listeners. Gur is always quite pedantic and methodical in his gameplay, so some great advice for him. Kai won our mini league here in South Africa, so you can value his opinion when it comes to fantasy football. Ghana Kai, where we at with fantasy strategies?
So I disagree a little bit with Saga. I don't have a strong bench. You put your money on the pitch. So I would rather pump up the actual team, make sure those guys are playing it week in, week out. Maybe have one sub that's able to shift in and out. But if you have too much of a strong bench, you end up depleting your funds for players that you can actually put onto the pitch. And also, you'll find yourself stressing every weekend because you don't know which players you want to put into the team. You're tinkering too much and you second guess yourself. Yeah.
But I mean, you have one bad spell of injuries and the minuses catch you. Or COVID now, yeah. That's
or fixture change because of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, those are things that everyone's going to deal with at this stage. But are you going to go 80-90% of the season with starters on the bench as opposed to having a little bit of extra fun?
Least me halfway with at least one defender and one striker.
No, I said at least one player. Not one.
I'm saying one defender and one.
One starter at least. Yeah. And for me, when the season starts, make the ballsy moves. Make the moves that you wish you could have made at the end of the season when you're trying to protect your lead. Because with me, I play those heavy moves in the front. You just play the wild card. You can play the wild card in game week 2, game week 3. Who cares, man?
Yeah.
But always make the moves early. That's how I play, right? So I would actually set up my team on the weekend while I'm watching the game.
Yep.
And this also safeguards against price increases. It improves my mental health because I don't have to keep on changing the team. So at the end of the day, we all know this is a time-consuming game. If you allow yourself to be completely, enthralled in this thing, you're gonna, some parts of your life are gonna slip, right?
I want to add one thing to what Kai said. That part about, I know I mentioned the 5-2-3 formation, but realistically during the season, you're going to play with 3 or 4 defenders. So when you have players on the bench, I really think you only need to have 2 bench players, to be honest. Your third bench player, the one sitting right at the end, who's probably never going to come on, is most likely going to be a defender, and he should be a 4.0. You must look early on in the season. Look early on in the season for 4.0 starters. I mean, very unlikely, but there were 1 or 2 that did start last season. I mean, actually every season there's always an injury, or for some reason somebody ends up coming on as a 4.0.
Yeah.
Write that guy off. Leave him there.
Exactly.
So that's the thing.
So that's the thing. So when you play that the wild card in the, for me, second or third game week, you bring those guys in.
Yeah, and it's a chance.
Look here, those guys are
Yeah,
guaranteed
right
to
away.
increase in cost because everyone's going to go for them later.
Everyone
So go for them
remembers
early.
Lundstrom from last year. Eh?
Lundstrom, exactly, yeah. So all of those guys, even Kevin De Bruyne, I got Kevin De Bruyne less than 10. I got him at 9
He
points.
ended up at 11.5 or so at the end of the season. Yeah,
Yeah.
so some great advice from Kai there. I think there's a few technical changes that the game has seen as well. Shay mentioned it now.
Yeah, verified shares when
Formation-wise.
it works, that man.
Yeah, 5-2-3
Well,
is
that's
an
right.
applicable formation. Maybe one key piece of information for everyone to that probably didn't know this, but deadline has changed. It's not 60 minutes before kickoff; it's 90 minutes before kickoff.
90.
So
That's
make
harsh.
sure that you get your team secured by 90 minutes before the first kickoff. Otherwise, you're going to get shot in the foot. And
Especially with the condensed season.
Yep. I think all of you mentioned most of the key things. And just maybe one thing from my side, I think the value of a vice captain is also going to be very critical this year with the amount of rotation that's coming. So try to keep your vice captain as a strong player who's not from the same team as your captain. Potentially with fixture changes due to COVID, many game weeks will see double game weeks and some of your big players might not be playing in that game week. So make sure you're on the fixture list and keep your vice captains on the ball as well. But boys, it's been a great show. We all amped and looking forward to the new season. Thanks for your time again, Shay, Kai, Girl. Always good
Thanks for having us.
Sure, man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Raj.
Great stuff, boys. And listeners, hope you enjoyed that. You can hear the excitement in all of our voices. The streets of South Africa is rocking, looking ahead of the season coming up, both in the English Premier League, but across Europe. And this is what the Crab Net is all about, bringing fresh, authentic opinions about the European football scenes straight from the streets of SA. As I always say, if you want to get in on our show, hit us up, follow us on Facebook, and smash that like button on YouTube as well. You'll find us there, bringing all of our opinions live to the rest of the world. Thanks again for joining us, and we're looking forward to the new season. Enjoy your football this weekend. We love you from the Crab Nets. Over and out. We going out tonight. We get our smoke on.